Welcome, listener, to the Candlelight Historian Slavic Mythology series. Tonight, we draw back the veil on a realm of ancient belief, a tapestry woven from the whispers of primeval forests, the murmurs of dark waters, and the fears that danced in the flickering firelight of ages past. We journey into the heart of Slavic mythology, an enigmatic world whose gods and spirits once held sway over vast swathes of Eastern, Central, and Southeastern Europe. Much of this ancient faith was carried on the breath of storytellers, its secrets passed from one generation to the next. With the passage of centuries and the rise of new beliefs, many of these old ways retreated into the shadows, surviving in fragmented tales, folk customs, and the very landscape itself. Tonight, we seek out the entities that dwell in those shadows, the beings often termed demonic. But in the Slavic understanding, demon is not always a simple synonym for pure evil. Many of these spirits are complex, born from the untamed forces of nature, the unquiet souls of the departed, or the unpredictable turns of fate. They are guardians and tricksters, avengers, and enigmatic figures whose motives can be as murky as a force pool at dusk. So, draw closer to the fire and listen. For the old world still echoes, if you know how to hear it. Our first foray takes us into the wild, untamed places where the very air thrums with ancient power. Deep within the boundless forests, where sunlight struggles to pierce the canopy, reigns the Leshy. His name, derived from the very word for forest, speaks of his dominion. He is the Lord of the Woods, a shapeshifter of incredible power. One moment, he might stand taller than the highest pines, his skin like gnarled bark, his beard a tangle of moss and vine. The next, he could shrink to the size of a blade of grass, unseen but ever present. The Leshy is the guardian of his domain, a protector of its creatures. To those who enter his realm with respect, who take only what they need and tread lightly, he may remain a silent observer, perhaps even offering aid. But woe betide the one who defiles the forest, who harms its inhabitants needlessly, or who shatters its ancient silence with careless noise. The Leshy's wrath can be terrible. He is a master of illusion, known to lead travelers astray, their familiar paths twisting into bewildering mazes until they wander, lost and exhausted. He might mimic the voices of loved ones, luring victims deeper into the woods, sometimes to their doom. One common tale tells of a traveler deep in the woods who suddenly realizes he is utterly lost. Every landmark is alien. Every path leads back to the same disorienting spot. This is the Leshy's work. The only hope, some say, is to shed one's clothes and put them on inside out, to wear one's shoes on the opposite feet, a ritual to break the forest lord's disorienting spell. In another legend, the Leshys of different forests were said to be great gamblers, playing cards for the creatures and resources of their domains. A sudden, inexplicable migration of squirrels across the Ural Mountains was once attributed to a Siberian Leshy, having lost a wager to his European counterpart, forced to drive his furry losses to the victor. From the forests, we move to the waters, the rivers, lakes, and shadowed ponds. Here dwells the Vodyanoy, the water grandfather. His appearance is as mutable as the water itself. Sometimes a bloated, hairy old man covered in slime and riverweed, his eyes burning like cold coals. Other times, he might take the form of a giant moss-covered fish, or even a deceptively beautiful bouquet of flowers floating on the surface. The Vodyanoy is a capricious and often malevolent spirit, the master of his underwater realm. He is the terror of swimmers who dare to enter his domain at forbidden times, after sunset or on holy days, or those who fail to show proper respect. He drags his victims down into his murky kingdom, some to serve as his slaves, others, if they are young and fair, to become his unwilling brides. He is known to break mill dams and wash away bridges if angered. Millers, whose livelihoods depended on the water, lived in particular fear and respect of the Vodyanoy. An old legend speaks of the sacrifices made when a new watermill was built. To appease the Vodyanoy and prevent him from destroying the structure or claiming a life, offerings were made, sometimes animals, but darker tales whisper of human sacrifices to ensure the water grandfather's contentment. Fishermen, too, would offer their first catch, or pour butter or tobacco into the water, hoping for the Vodyanoy's favor and a bountiful haul. Even the sun-drenched fields at high noon are not without their perils. Here, when the sun beats down mercilessly and the air is heavy with heat, walks the Południca, Lady Midday. She often appears as a tall, ethereal woman in a flowing white gown, her hair loose, sometimes crowned with wildflowers. But her beauty is deceptive. The Południca manifests in the fields when workers are taking their midday rest. She approaches them, not with malice at first, but with difficult questions or an attempt to draw them into conversation. Woe to the worker who fails to answer her riddles, or who tries to evade her. Her mood can turn in an instant. She might strike them with illness, a blinding headache, sunstroke, even paralysis. Or, in her most terrifying aspect, she might raise her gleaming sickle or shears and cut off their head. She is the personification of the sun's dangerous power, a spirit who enforces the sacred, necessary rest during the hottest part of the day, punishing those who disrespect this ancient taboo. Many of Slavic mythology's most poignant and terrifying entities are born from human tragedy. The unquiet dead, their souls unable to find peace. The Rusalka is perhaps one of the most iconic of these spirits. She is often the soul of a young woman who died a tragic death connected to water, drowned by a cruel lover or family member, or having taken her own life in despair. Perhaps after an unhappy love affair or an unwanted pregnancy. She appears as a beautiful young woman. Her long hair, often green or light brown, perpetually dripping. Rusalki haunt the rivers, lakes, and ponds where they met their end. During Rusalka week, in early June, they are said to emerge from the water to swing on the branches of willow and birch trees, their laughter and songs echoing through the night. But their beauty is a lure. They entice young men with their enchanting appearance and voices, drawing them towards the water. Once their victim is close, they entangle him with their long, strong hair, pulling him under to a watery grave. Or sometimes, they are said to tickle their victims to death. A Russian folk tale tells of a beautiful maiden named Dana, drowned by her jealous stepmother near a watermill. Her grieving fiancé, a young prince, often visited the site of her death. One night, he saw a group of Rusalki, Dana among them, combing their green hair on the mill wheels. He rushed to her, but she dove into the water. The prince, unable to live without her, followed her into her underwater palace, choosing to stay with her and share her fate. Such tales often end in sorrow, the Rusalka forever bound to her watery grave. A beautiful and tragic figure of vengeance and eternal longing. From the deep forests of Ukraine comes the Mavka, or Mavka. Like the Rusalka, she is often the soul of a young girl who died an unnatural or premature death, especially an unchristened baby. If such a soul lingers for 7 years without finding its way to the afterlife, it may transform into a Mavka. Mavkas are depicted as stunningly beautiful young girls with very long hair, often green, and a love for flowers, which they weave into their tresses. They entice young men into the woods, and then, in a strangely playful yet horrifying act, they tickle them to death. A chilling detail in some legends describes the Mavka as having no back, meaning her spine and internal organs are visible from behind. Despite their deadly nature, there is a tragic quality to the Mavka. One legend tells that to save the soul of an unchristened baby and prevent it from becoming a Mavka, one must, during the Pentecost holidays, throw a kerchief, call the baby's name, and say, "I baptize you." The rescued soul would then ascend to heaven, spared the fate of becoming a beautiful, death-tickling forest spirit. The figure of the vampire is known worldwide, but its roots run deep in Slavic soil. Long before the caped counts of Western fiction, there was the Upiór, or vampires. The Slavic vampire was not a creature of seductive allure, but a horrifying revenant, often bloated and ruddy-faced from its feasting, its corpse showing an unnatural lack of decay. An Upior could be created through an unnatural death, suicide, drowning, a violent end, or if a corpse was improperly buried or desecrated. Witches, sorcerers, and the unbaptized were also at risk. These creatures would rise from their graves, sometimes even in daylight, to prey upon the living, drinking their blood and tearing them apart. They were blamed for plagues and madness. A Polish legend from near the village of Supia tells of a young man who took his own life due to unrequited love. Buried in a lonely spot, he rose as an Upior, terrorizing the local people and their cattle, his rampage only ceasing at the rooster's crow at dawn. Such tales fueled the grim practices of vampire burials, decapitation, staking, or burying the suspected Upior face down with a sickle at its neck to prevent its return. Another terrifying undead figure is the Stryga, a creature with a particularly chilling origin. A Stryga is said to be a person born with two hearts, two souls, and sometimes even two sets of teeth. Such individuals were often feared and driven from their communities. When a Stryga dies, usually at a young age, one soul passes on, but the other remains, reanimating the corpse into a demonic predator. The undead Stryga often develops owl-like features, feathered wings and sharp claws, and emerges at night from its grave to hunt. It craves human blood and flesh, sometimes targeting those who wronged it in its first life. The core legend emphasizes this tragic duality. Born different, feared in life, and cursed to become a monster in death. A creature of two souls trapped between worlds. From the southern Slavic lands comes a creature whose very name means the screamer, the Drekavac. Its origins are often tied to the souls of unbaptized children, rising from their graves to haunt the living, their terrifying wails piercing the night. These screams are not just frightening. They can be omens of death or misfortune. The Drekavac's appearance is wildly inconsistent across regions. Sometimes a humanoid canine creature, sometimes the ghost of a soldier, a vampire-like man, or a bizarre long-necked being with a cat's head. Often, it's described as a small, hairy, twisted creature with a disproportionately large head. It is said to attack by leaping onto a victim's back, strangling them, or forcing them to run to exhaustion, all while emitting its horrifying shrieks. The most persistent legend is that of the screaming soul of an unbaptized child. Its cries a desperate plea for a baptism that would grant it peace, or chilling harbinger of doom for those who hear it. Not all spirits dwelled in the distant wilds or lonely graveyards. Some made their homes alongside humans, their presence an intimate part of daily life, their nature often reflecting the order or disorder of the household. Perhaps the most famous and enigmatic of all Slavic spirits is Baba Yaga. She is not easily categorized. Is she a terrifying ogress, a wise crone, a guardian of the border between worlds? Perhaps all of these. She dwells deep in the forest, in a magical hut that stands on chicken legs and can spin on command. Her fence is often described as being made of human bones, topped with skulls whose eyes blaze with an eerie light. Baba Yaga herself is a fearsome sight, an old hag with a long nose, iron teeth, and a bony leg. She flies through the air not on a broom, but in a giant mortar, using the pestle as a rudder and sweeping away her tracks with a broom. She's known to kidnap and eat children, yet in other tales, she can be a reluctant helper, a tester of heroes and heroines, offering magical gifts or vital advice if her tasks are completed, or if she's approached with the correct mixture of respect and courage. The tale of Vasilisa the Beautiful is one of the most well-known legends featuring Baba Yaga. Sent by her cruel stepmother to fetch fire from the witch, young Vasilisa, aided by a magical doll given by her dying mother, endures Baba Yaga's terrifying presence and impossible tasks. Baba Yaga, impressed or perhaps annoyed by the blessing that protects Vasilisa, eventually gives her a skull with burning eyes. This macabre lantern, when taken back to the stepmother's house, incinerates the cruel relatives, freeing Vasilisa. The story showcases Baba Yaga's terrifying power, her role as a tester, and her connection to a primal, often dangerous, form of justice. Within the home itself, another spirit, the Kikimora, could make her presence known. Often a female house spirit, her disposition depended greatly on the conduct of the household. She might appear as a small old woman, or sometimes with animalistic features like a chicken's beak or a dog's snout. If the house was orderly and the family respectful, the Kikimora might quietly help with chores or look after the chickens. But if the home was neglected, the family lazy or quarrelsome, she became a tormentor. She would make noises in the night, break dishes, and most notably, tangle any needlework or spinning left out. A common legend held that if a spinner left her work unfinished overnight, the Kikimora would come and snarl the yarn, a folkloric reminder to maintain diligence and order. The sound of her spindle was sometimes considered an omen of misfortune. She was also blamed for nightmares and sleep paralysis, said to sit on the chest of sleepers. Even the bathhouse, the Banya, had its own resident spirit, the Bannik. This was a potent place, used for births and divination rituals. The Bannik often appeared as a small old man with a long beard, sometimes covered in birch leaves from the bath brooms. He demanded respect and proper etiquette. Woe to those who bathed too late, made too much noise, or failed to leave him offerings of soap, water, and fir branches after the third steaming session. An angered Bannik could throw hot stones, suffocate bathers with steam, or even burn the bathhouse down. Yet, the Bannik also held the gift of prophecy. A famous legend describes how young girls would seek to know their future by standing with their back exposed in the bathhouse doorway. A soft, gentle touch from the Bannik signified good fortune and a happy marriage. But a cold, clawed touch foretold misfortune, illness, or even death. Some spirits were not tied to a place, but to fate itself, personifications of the darker aspects of existence. The Likho is the embodiment of evil fate and misfortune, often depicted as a gaunt old woman in black with a single baleful eye in the middle of her forehead. Her appearance was an omen of impending disaster. She didn't typically attack directly, but her very presence signified that bad luck was near. One chilling tale illustrates the tenacity of misfortune personified by Likho. Likho latches onto a person, riding on their neck, an unbearable burden. Desperate, the victim tries to drown Likho by jumping into a river. But the plan fails tragically. The person drowns while Likho, the spirit of misfortune itself, simply floats free, ready to cling to another unsuspecting soul. The proverb, "Don't wake Likho while it is quiet," serves as a stark reminder to avoid tempting fate. Then there are the Bies and the Chort, figures often equated with devils or demons, embodying malice and trickery. The Bies was an ancient personification of evil forces in nature, capable of possessing souls and driving people to madness. The Chort, often depicted with horns, hooves, and a tail, was more of a trickster, luring people into foolish pacts, offering worldly goods in exchange for their souls. A Czech folktale tells of a discharged soldier who, through acts of charity, is granted 3 magical boons by God, one of which is a knapsack that can trap anyone he commands to enter it. The soldier takes lodging in a mill haunted by a Chort. When the Chort appears at midnight, the soldier calmly plays cards. As the Chort attempts to attack him, the soldier simply says, "Leap into my knapsack," trapping the demon. The next day, he takes the knapsack to a blacksmith and has the Chort thoroughly hammered before releasing him. A tale showcasing the Chort not as an all-powerful evil, but as a figure that can be outwitted by human cleverness and courage. Finally, we touch upon a deity who embodies darkness itself, Chernobog, the Black God. He is the antithesis of Belobog, the White God, representing chaos, misfortune, and all that is destructive. His appearance was said to be that of a mighty man with skin as black as night, his eyes glowing with malevolence. Chernobog was believed to be the origin of all earthly calamities: cold, hunger, plague, and war. One creation myth tells that alongside the creator, God Rod, and the light god, Belobog, Chernobog played a role in shaping the world. In this tale, he struck the sacred Alatir stone with his hammer, and from the black sparks that flew forth, all the unclean spirits and malevolent forces of the world were born. To appease his wrath and avert disaster, ancient Slavs were said to have offered sacrifices, acknowledging his power over the darker aspects of existence. The creatures and deities we've encountered tonight are more than mere monsters from forgotten tales. They are reflections of a world where the veil between the seen and unseen was thin, where nature was alive with spirits, and where the mysteries of life, death, and fate were given tangible, often terrifying, form. These Slavic shadows speak of ancient fears, the darkness of the forest, the treachery of the waters, the unquiet spirits of those taken too soon, the sting of misfortune. But they also speak of a deep connection to the world, a respect for its powers, and the enduring human need to understand the forces that shape our lives. The echoes of this old world still linger in the rustle of leaves, the murmur of water, the stories told in hushed tones. Thank you for joining us. In next episodes, we'll explore each demonic creature on its own.